Next, we have Dr. Jennifer Uno, who is an assistant professor of biology at Elon University in North Carolina, and she's going to talk about specifics for teaching in academia.
Yeah, thanks. I know. Okay, so I'm going to do my best to do this in 10 minutes. I talk fast to begin with, and so I might have to speed things up just a little bit. I drank some coffee ahead of time to help with that. I know. I am actually a newly associate professor, and so when I thought about this task, I thought I'd talk about negotiation from in terms of negotiating just a general job at a teaching institute, because I think it's something that several people in this room might not be familiar with. So I'm actually going to kind of start off from applying for the job to getting tenure, which is sort of the pinnacle that we're all taught in graduate school. So a little bit about myself. I'm from Arizona. I got my PhD in physiology from the University of Arizona, and it was really there that I sort of realized I liked teaching, and I did a little bit of teaching as a graduate student. And because of that, I went out to North Carolina to do a specific postdoctoral fellowship that allowed me to do teaching and research. And that was really important to me. I wanted that teaching experience as a postdoc, and I got that in the Spire Fellowship. And then sort of two things happened. One, during my fellowship, I fell even more in love with teaching, which was important. And two, I met my husband, and we decided that it was okay for us to plant roots east of the Mississippi, something I told my mother I would never do. Luckily for me, a job announcement opened up at Elon University, which is just down the road, and it is a primarily teaching university. I was sort of lucky enough and timed it right where I was able to apply for the job and get it, and I started as an assistant professor there, and I'm still there. And I work in a biology department. I don't work at a medical school. It's very different. I will say my salary is 100% hard money and will be for the rest of my career as long as I stay at Elon. That's huge. As most of you all know, I can hear the effect. My agenda for the day is big, again, to give you a little bit of background on different teaching jobs that I think are out there, and then I'm going to focus on working at a primarily undergraduate institution and sort of negotiating the process of getting to this endpoint, sort of the pinnacle of academics in general, which is getting tenure. And so teaching in academics, and actually this title is a little off. I think teaching with your PhD is probably a better one. You could work at a PUI. You could be a lecturer at a research university. You could do adjuncting if you prefer. You could certainly get a job at a community college. They are very teaching oriented. You could do a more entrepreneur route. You could do some MOOC work or a for-profit education, and probably some of the most or the coolest jobs I think are out there in science in terms of education would be at a museum. Again, I work at a small private undergraduate or primarily undergraduate institute, and that's what I'm going to focus on today. So what is a PUI? It is a primarily undergraduate institute where most, if not all, of the students are undergraduates. Small liberal arts universities are included in this, and they really do range in size. So the example I'm going to use today is Elon, because this is where I work, and it's pretty. Elon is a mid-sized private university. There's about 6,000 undergraduates. 2 of them are in here today because they're my students, and they're being supportive. There's about 700 graduate students, things like law school and PA school and PT school. There's about 500 of us that are full-time faculty. The student-to-faculty ratio is about 12 to 1. There's a typo in my little handout if you've seen this. I don't teach 24 credit hours a semester. That would probably kill me. I teach 12 credit hours a semester, but this almost killed me when I first started. So it's a lot of teaching, right? And so what is it like to have an academic teaching job? Well, so this is sort of what Dr. Barrett was just talking about. If you work in academic research, I would venture to say 55% of your time is spent on research, and I would say this is maybe on the lower end depending on what type of institute you're at. If you're at a medical school, I would say it's probably more like 90% of your time. With me, I would say now 55% of my time is spent teaching. When I first started, I would probably say that was close to 80% of my time was spent teaching. So if you want to work at a small liberal arts school or a primary undergraduate institute, you have to like it. You have to like teaching. And so what does that mean? It means, again, a lot of hours in the classroom with students. I love teaching. I love teaching students about physiology. I think I have one of the coolest jobs out there. So I'm okay with that. But with that extended teaching load comes extended expectations for the level that you do teach at. And at the same time, you get to have teaching opportunities that you may not have at a research university. Things like developing creative study abroad courses, which I think are amazing, although not something that I want to do. You can also do really cool things with service learning where your course content is directly connected to community outreach. This is something I do and I really enjoy doing, and it's something that I'm rewarded for and given credit for, and that's not going to be the case all the time at a research-intensive university. If you are thinking that this is a route that you want to go, the number one piece of advice I can give you for my whole talk is to find teaching experiences beyond being a TA now, as a graduate student and as a postdoc. It's really important if you want to be competitive on the job market. Research at a PUI, it's a common misconception that we don't do research. I do a lot of research. Again, I have 2 students here that are presenting their research. I think the thing to remember is that they are undergraduate-driven research projects. This is very different than the type of research I did as a graduate student and as a postdoc. So budget is limited. I don't have a sequencing facility. I barely have a PCR machine that I can use, and I work on a very small budget that is nowhere near $500,000. It's not even like it's, minus several zeros, right? But I'm okay with that. To that end, people always ask me if they should postdoc. Is it necessary to postdoc if you're going to work if you're going to get a job in the teaching world in academics? And I actually say yes. I think it's really important, and I think you should be thoughtful about your postdoc. It's a great time for you to be able to really develop projects that are amenable to a small institute, and it really teaches you how to think independently, and I think that's really important when you get to a small school where you're kind of on your own. So negotiating the job application, just to let you know, it is competitive. For any job posting that's out there, we'll get anywhere from 50 to 300 applications. 300 is probably on the slightly exaggerated side, although I do think there's some evolution in ecology jobs where they often get 300 applications. I would say on average I've sat on 3 different search committees, and we've had anywhere from 75 to 150 paper applications turned in. The number one thing I can tell you, I read cover letters very carefully. The rest of the stuff, nah. I have a good friend who reads CVs very carefully. Cover letters, nah, to him. I want to know that you've done your homework. I want to know that you know where Elon is, that you know what kind of school we are, and if you tell me in your cover letter about all of the millions of dollars of amazing high-tech research you've done and how you want to bring that to Elon, I'm going to toss your letter to the bottom of the pile and I'm not going to read anything else. Make your cover letter specific, and this is across the board. Make your cover letter specific to the job you are applying for. I cannot tell you how far or how not far a non-specific cover letter, the generic cover letter, will not get you very far. Tailor your CV, put teaching first. That matters to us, so make it matter to you on your CV. If you have to write a teaching statement, I'm not going to lie, I don't always read them, but you should be thoughtful about it and use concrete examples because they're important. Like, don't just list, don't make it so fluffy. Use concrete examples of things that you've done and how you can apply them to the classroom. Oh, I have a lot to go. Okay, phone interview, 10 to 15. Do your homework, learn about the school, test out technology. Most people do Skype interviews, so make sure your computer connections work and that the sound is good, so on and so forth. A campus interview, the number one thing I can say is they bring 3 to 4 individuals. Usually any people that we're willing to bring onto campus, we're willing to hire. So at that point, we're looking for fit. How do you fit into the department? What can you bring to our department? If there is already a GI physiologist in the Elon's department of biology, then, and you're a GI physiologist, then you better make it seem like you're going to be able to bring something different. Because next to me, I have a tree guy, and on the other side of me, I have a marine biologist. We don't want duplicates. We want new and interesting. Negotiating the job offer, like Dr. Barrett said, salaries are actually often really hard to negotiate, and I'm not going to lie, we don't get paid as much, right? So you kind of have to love it. The thing I would say, though, is things to consider. I really love my job. I have a 9-month contract for the most part, and if I do work in the summer, I can get compensated for it. So that's on top of what my base salary is. That's important to know, right? I also, if I don't want to work in the summer, I don't have to. So that's a beautiful thing, right? Like I can do whatever I want. That's lovely. There are plenty of ways that usually at small schools where you can salary supplement, so you should find out what those are. So don't think that the salary that you're given is the only way you can bring in money. It's really important to get a general feel for the campus culture so you know what's appropriate to ask for. So find someone that you can talk to, whether it's on that campus or another small liberal arts school to talk to. I'm going to go really quickly. When you get to negotiating for tenure, there are 3 things that at any job in academics that they tell you about: teaching, service, and research. And I think it's really important to find ways that you can cross those and make them work for you, right? Find things that you can teach that you can do research in, or find things that are service related that you can do service things for. Those are the people I want to thank. There's a lot of stuff today. Don't be overwhelmed. It's going to be okay. You will too be victorious. Thank you.